Good morning, friends. Today, let us learn the Indian Express explained India's new vaccine policy. It seems certain that many recipients will pay more than in the first three pages of vaccination. But the key questions about availability, distribution, prioritization remain unanswered. Here's what is known so far. India will dramatically expand its vaccination coverage from wave 1, including everyone aged 18 and older. The fourth phase of the mass inoculation program incorporates several changes in vaccine policy. What are the changes in procurement? In the first phase, where healthcare workers, frontline workers, and those above the age of 45 were vaccinated, the center procured the entire quantity of vaccines from manufacturers Serum Institute of India, Covishield, and Bharat Biotech's Covaxin and distributed it to states. The state distributed the stock to government vaccination centers, which administered the vaccine free of cost, and to private hospitals that charged recipients rupees 250 per dose. From May 1, the supply will be divided into two baskets, 50% for the center and 50% for the open market. Through the second non-government of India channel, state governments, private hospitals, and industries that have facilities to administer the vaccine will be able to procure doses directly from the manufacturer. What changes in distribution? First, the 50% basket of vaccine dose earmarked for states and private hospitals in the open market will be used to vaccinate those above the age of 18 years. Second, free vaccination would be available at all vaccination centers that receive doses from the Government of India. With those doses, healthcare workers, frontline workers, and those above 45 will be vaccinated. Second, free vaccination would be available at all vaccination centers that receive doses from Government of India. With those doses, healthcare workers, frontline workers, and those above 45 will be vaccinated. Will private vaccination centers still administer the vaccine at rupees 250? No. Since no doses will be made available to the private sector, private hospitals will have their own rates. So what will be the cost of a shot at private center? In the first three pages, out of the rupees 250 charged for vaccination, private hospitals received rupees 100 for administering the jab. Since they will now be procuring the vaccine at a higher price, the cost of a jab is expected to be much higher than in the first three phases. The center on Monday said the prices charged by private hospitals would be monitored. A mechanism will be put in place and vaccine stocks and prices will be captured on the CoWIN platform. States will receive doses from center and also make additional procurement from the open market. So how will they plan vaccination sessions? This is not final yet. However, the center has said that it will be able to allot vaccines for 15 days, which means that states will know in advance that for the next 15 days they will receive a specific number of doses. They will therefore have both a big as well as granular picture of availability on date for the coming fortnight. How will the center decide which state gets how many doses? The center will allocate its 50% share to state based on the extent of infection, active cases, and performance speed of administration. Currently, states receive vaccine does according to demand, number of registrations, and walk-in vaccinations. Now, low wastage will be incentivized. So will imported vaccines also be divided among the center, states, and private hospitals? No, the center will allow the imported fully ready to use vaccines to entirely utilized in the other than Government of India channel. Thus, if and when a foreign pharma giant brings its vaccine to India, it will be free to directly sell the entire stock in the open market at a competitive price. Will those who have received the first dose and whose second dose is due be prioritized? Yes, the center said that the second dose of all existing priority groups, wherever it has become due, would be given priority, for which a specific and focused strategy would be communicated to all stakeholders. On what basis will vaccine makers decide whom to sell to and at what price? There are no guidelines as yet. The center has only said that private vaccination providers shall transparently declare self-set vaccination prices. States have not been given the liberty to negotiate prices. Serum Institute of India on Wednesday announced the prices for its vaccine for rupees 400 per dose to states and rupees 600 per dose to hospitals. Bharat Biotech and Dr. Reddy's, which will distribute Russian Sputnik 5 shot, have not made any announcement yet. Adar Poonawalla, SII CEO, has been vocal about supplying to hospitals rather than to states. He believes hospitals are better placed to carry out the vaccination exercises. Besides, states are expected to get some free supplies from the center anyway. Is an option for states and not mandatory. We want to sell to the private hospitals which will take care of all those states and corporates. I don't know why there is such a hula about every state complaining about the price, because look at its very option. So how will manufacturers apportion their quota for states? Which states will get first and more? Again, there is little clarity on the mechanism that manufacturers will employ to decide among the states that place order. And in the absence of a formula or guideline, passing control over to private vaccine producers will mean that there will be no social basis for allocating vaccines to states, according to Professor R. Ramakumar of TIS. Only commercial considerations are likely to prevail. States will compete for a fixed quantity of vaccine which will continue to be in excess demand. Private companies would prioritize selling rupees 600 per dose and not rupees 400 per dose. This means that selling to states will be less of a priority for vaccine producers than to private hospitals. States are likely to be squeezed as a result. That said, however, it is likely that manufacturers will follow the center's lead in prioritizing. Could it be the first come first serve? It would depend on how many states enter into deals with manufacturers and on the availability of doses. Richer states which have the ability to procure larger amounts and states with large networks of private hospitals are expected to receive a higher proportion of doses from the open market. Which other countries in the world have allowed open market sale of vaccines? None so far. The main reason is that vaccines that are being used around the world have received only emergency use authorization. None of them have presented through enough evidence yet on the safety and effectiveness to receive full regulatory authorization. Under normal circumstances, it might take 8 to 10 years to develop, test and receive approval for a vaccine. But in the extraordinary pandemic scenario, the development, clinical trials and approval have been fast-tracked to ensure that people have a chance at escaping severe disease or death. No other country is doing this open market sale as yet, because all the vaccines are still under restricted or emergency use permission and have not been fully licensed in other countries of origin, except perhaps in Russia. Given the public health priority of vaccinating a large segment of the population, several countries including US, UK, Japan, France, China are providing vaccines for free to citizens. Once an estimated 600 million new recipients become eligible on May 1, when and from where will be the required stocks of vaccine be procured? Some 130 million shots had been administered in India so far, and over 111 million people are yet to receive their second dose. Depending on how many people in the priority groups are still left to receive their second shot by the time May 1 comes around, the country could need around 1.2 billion doses of vaccines. Given the country's current production capacity and the delay in bringing in foreign vaccine supplies will almost certainly fall short of demand. SII is going to prioritize doses of Covishield for India, at least for the next 2 months, which means a potential supply of around 120 to 140 million doses will be available in the country between May and June. However, the company is expected to begin to deliver the open market only from the 3rd or 4th week of May. Sputnik 5 is expected to begin arriving in the country by the end of May. Dr. Reddy's Laboratories has an agreement to distribute 250 million doses of the Russian vaccine, but it is unclear how many of the doses may become available to India. The company is still in discussion with the government over the price and number of doses required. It is unclear whether Bharat Biotech will be able to supply for the open market from May 1. If it does, the company could potentially supply an estimated 29 million doses across states over the whole month. The company has announced an expanded capacity of around 700 million doses per annum. It is also unclear how many doses Johnson & Johnson, which is planning to conduct bridge studies in the country, can supply to India. The process in itself may take a few months. Pfizer has said that it plans to only supply to the government, but it is also unknown when an agreement may be reached and how many doses it can provide. Thank you.